Imagine for a moment that you could peel away every layer of reality, the galaxies, the stars, the atoms, the subatomic particles, until nothing is left but the pure isness of existence itself. What would you find there? In the 13th century, the philosopher and theologian Thomas Aquinas made an extraordinary claim. God is not simply the greatest being in the universe, nor one thing among many, but being itself, the sheer act of existence without which nothing at all could be. In Latin, he called this ipsum esse subsistens, subsistent existence itself. This wasn't a poetic flourish or theological metaphor. For Aquinas, it was the most accurate way to describe the ultimate reality sustaining everything, everywhere, right now. And here's the part that changes everything. Being itself is not some cold, impersonal force. It is conscious, infinitely aware, and perfectly alive. In this video, we'll explore Aquinas' vision in depth, from its roots in ancient philosophy to its uncanny resonance with modern science. And we'll discover what it means for us to live in a reality where existence itself is the conscious divine. To truly grasp Aquinas' insight, we need to step into his world, a 13th century Europe alive with the rediscovery of ancient knowledge. Born in 1225 in Roccasecca, Italy, Aquinas lived at a time when the works of Aristotle were flooding back into Western thought through translations from Arabic scholars like Avicenna and Averroes. This was revolutionary. Aristotle's philosophy offered a rigorous way to think about nature, causality, and existence itself. As a Dominican friar, Aquinas was devoted to the Christian faith, but he believed that faith and reason were not rivals. Truth could not contradict truth. By weaving Aristotle's metaphysics into Christian theology, Aquinas developed a view of God unlike anything most people imagine. Not a cosmic craftsman tinkering with the world from the outside, but the very reason there is a world at all. Drawing on Aristotle's distinction between essence, what something is, and existence, that it is, Aquinas concluded that everything we see has its being from something else, and that only God is being itself, uncaused, necessary, infinite. For him, this wasn't just philosophy. It was a spiritual vision of reality as an unbroken act of divine presence. One of Aquinas' most important corrections to common thinking is that God is not a being, not even the most powerful being in existence, but rather the act of being itself. A being, no matter how vast, is still a finite thing with limits. It exists alongside other beings in the great inventory of reality. But being itself is not one entry on that list. It is the reason there's a list at all. Think of it like the difference between individual waves and the ocean. The waves rise and fall, appearing and disappearing, but the ocean, water itself, remains the constant source of their existence. And Aquinas takes this further. Without God, there would be no ocean, no waves, no water, no is. This is why he described God as subsistent existence, pure being that exists through itself, without origin, without boundaries. And unlike the blind, mechanical being of abstract philosophy, Aquinas' God is pure act, actus purus, fully aware, fully knowing, fully loving. This is the infinite I Am, who spoke to Moses from the burning bush, not bound in time or space, but the one in whom all time and space exist. If God is being itself, and being itself is conscious, then our own awareness is not some isolated phenomenon trapped in the brain. It is a spark of the infinite mind that sustains the cosmos. Aquinas saw all finite consciousness as a participation in divine consciousness, much like rays of sunlight are expressions of the sun. Your capacity to say I am is not separate from the great I am at the heart of reality. This idea finds deep resonance with mystical traditions worldwide. In Advaita Vedanta, Brahman is the pure awareness in which all forms appear. In Sufi mysticism, God is the light of the heavens and the earth. And in certain strands of modern philosophy, thinkers like David Bentley Hart argue that consciousness cannot arise from sheer non-being. It must be grounded in reality's deepest level. For Aquinas, existence and consciousness are inseparable. To exist is already to participate in some way in knowing and being known. That means every flicker of awareness, every moment you notice that you exist, is already a subtle encounter with the divine. Aquinas is perhaps best known for his 5 ways, philosophical arguments for the existence of God. But the one most relevant here is the argument from contingency. It begins with an observation. Everything in our experience exists, but it could have failed to exist. A tree grows, but could have rotted as a seed. A star burns, but could have never ignited. These contingent things depend on something else for their being. If we trace this chain of dependence backward, it cannot go on infinitely. There must be something that exists necessarily, without reliance on anything else. And here's the key. For Aquinas, this necessary reality is not just another supreme being at the top of the hierarchy. It is the act of being itself, uncaused, eternal, the wellspring from which all reality flows. Modern cosmology echoes this question when it asks, why is there something rather than nothing? For Aquinas, the answer is that at every moment, reality is being gifted into existence by the one whose essence is to exist. Although Aquinas lived centuries before quantum physics, his vision of reality has uncanny parallels with modern science. In quantum mechanics, particles are not solid objects with fixed existence. They emerge in interaction, in a dance of probabilities that collapse into actuality. Reality is not a static block, but a continuous act of becoming, a process that mirrors Aquinas' idea of existence as a present, ongoing gift. In neuroscience and philosophy of mind, many thinkers struggled to explain consciousness as a mere byproduct of matter. Some turn to panpsychism, suggesting that awareness is a fundamental feature of the universe. This is remarkably close to Aquinas' claim that consciousness is woven into the very fabric of being because its source is conscious. Even in cosmology, when scientists like Stephen Hawking ask what breathes fire into the equations of physics, they are essentially touching the same mystery Aquinas described, the eternal act that keeps reality in existence here and now. For Aquinas, this was never just an intellectual puzzle. It was the foundation of a way of life. If God is being itself, then every breath you take, every heartbeat, every thought exists only because the divine is holding it in being. This means that you are not separated from God by cosmic distance. You are immersed in God's reality in this very moment. Prayer, meditation, and contemplation are therefore not about reaching toward a far-off deity, but about awakening to the presence that is already closer to you than your own heartbeat. And if every creature participates in this one act of being, then every person you meet, every living thing, every fragment of the cosmos is a unique expression of the same infinite source. The ethical implications are profound. To harm another is to wound the shared fabric of reality itself. To love another is to honor the divine presence that sustains you both. The Apostle Paul's words, "In him we live and move and have our being," capture the essence of Aquinas' vision. God is not somewhere else occasionally intervening in the universe. God is the reason the universe exists at all. The space you occupy right now, the awareness you feel in this moment, the fact that anything exists rather than nothing, all of it is an expression of the same uncreated act of being. To realize this is to shift from thinking of God as a distant object of belief to experiencing God as the living reality in which you already dwell. This is the mystery Aquinas invites us into, existence itself as conscious divine being. To live in this awareness is to live in wonder, gratitude, and awe, not at a God who competes with creation, but at a God who is the life of creation itself.